And welcome back to another episode of the Gameday Sports podcast. My name is Louie. I'm your host. Got a good one for you today. We're talking NBA playoffs. We're talking the Houston Astros. Space City struggles for Houston as they're struggling a bit out of the gate. We'll talk into some winners and losers on the team right now. And NBA playoffs. We've had a busy couple of days. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Smash that subscribe. Smash that like. Drop us a comment. Let us know what you think on all the socials. We're available Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Spotify. It's been a busy last few days. I've been out with the flu last week. I had the flu into strep throat, so that's why you haven't seen me in quite a while. But I have not forgotten you guys. I have not forgotten about the podcast. The podcast is alive and well. So let's go ahead and dive right in. We're talking NBA playoffs. We had another huge game last night. The Kings outlasted the Warriors in another classic. 114-106 gives Sacramento a 2-0 lead on the Golden State Warriors. Another fantastic effort from De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, and that crew. Malik Monk got it done off the bench. Also, Davion Mitchell, unsung hero, definitely. Making it hard for Steph Curry to get shots. Making it hard for him to get quality shots also. The amount of shots he's taking, flustering and frustrating Steph Curry. Big shout out to him off the bench. And, of course, the story coming out of this game is Draymond Green being ejected in the fourth quarter for stomping on Domantas Sabonis. They kind of got tangled up. Sabonis kind of looked, one angle looked like he grabbed his ankle. Another angle kind of looked like he was shielding himself from maybe getting stepped on, which he did anyway. He got a hold of Green's ankle. Green tried to get out of it, ended up stomping on Sabonis' chest. It was a flagrant one to Sabonis. Green got tossed. It just kind of snowballed from there. The Kings already had momentum. They were, it was back and forth. The Kings off to a slow start and recovered nicely in the second quarter. 41 points in that second quarter. Then they went back and forth into the fourth. Green's ejection really swayed things for Sacramento, in my opinion. And they were able to close the door and leave Sacktown and going to Oakland with a 2-0 lead on the Warriors. So that is huge for Sacramento. As far as the play, you have to take into consideration Draymond's reputation. We've seen this before. We've seen the LeBron play. We've seen several plays over the course of regular season and playoffs. Hell, he got into it with Jordan Poole earlier in the year. So you have to take that kind of thing into account, his reputation. I would not be surprised if Draymond Green gets a suspension. I think the flagrant one on Sabonis was fair because whether it was intentional or not, warranted or not, Sabonis still grabbed his ankle and he kind of started the whole thing. Green was way off out of line, I think, stepping on him. And I know, he came on the interview, the post game, saying, I had to put my foot somewhere. I had to, I couldn't really stretch out. I'm not that flexible. I had to put my foot somewhere to get out of the grip of Sabonis. You've got to take that reputation into account. And Green's done that to himself. He's got nobody to blame but himself. Sabonis was wrong, but Draymond escalated it. So I think a 1-game suspension and it's done. And the Warriors could be done if they don't get their act together here in Game 3. Their first time they've lost back-to-back playoff games since 2019. It's been a while. So the Kings definitely stepped up in the clutch. Both of these games coming down to the wire. Sacramento just showing incredible poise and maturity. De'Aaron Fox making big shots. Malik Monk coming off the bench. Another solid game from Sabonis after he struggled in the first game. You had Davion Mitchell, what he's doing to Steph Curry, frustrating him. I've just been very, very impressed by the Kings. The fact that they were able to win both of these games when they came down to the wire, where you would feel that the Warriors' playoff experience and this battle-tested group and well-coached team led by Steve Kerr, you would think that would play into the Warriors' hands and give them the advantage. But the Kings went out, took advantage of an electric crowd, this crazy atmosphere that had not seen a playoff game in 17 years. They had not won a playoff game in 17 years, and then they go and win 2 playoff games in the span of 3 days. Just shows how tough and gritty this Kings team is. And this Kings team and the Kings atmosphere reminds me a lot of the young Warriors when they were in Oracle Arena and they were coming up. They were up and coming, this core. And they were really young, and you didn't expect them to make the NBA Finals or anything like that. But they were crazy talented. They made a lot of noise. And, yeah, I've just been very impressed. I originally had the Warriors in 6. The Warriors would have to sweep from here on out for that prediction to be true. I hope I'm wrong because the Kings have done a remarkable job, and Mike Brown has done an unbelievable job with this young unit. So Game 3 later on in the week, we'll see what Sacramento can do in a hostile environment now that they're back in Oakland. The other game last night, 76ers taking down the Nets after a slow start, 96-84. Philly takes a 2-0 lead in that series. We didn't expect Brooklyn to put up too much of a fight here. I know Mikal Bridges has been an awesome story, the Iron Man of the NBA, playing 83 games because of the trade to Brooklyn. Cam Johnson, Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith. They've got a lot of nice pieces, but no dominant piece, no centerpiece around the team. And Mikal Bridges could become that someday, if they keep him there. He could definitely become that. But no centerpiece of the team. No MVP candidate like Philly has. So, and it's showing. Philly they struggled in the first half. Harden didn't shoot that well. Embiid only took 11 shots. He still ended up with a 20 and 19 stat line. But Tyrese Maxey really brought it this game. 33 points. You have Tobias Harris, another guy that could easily go for 15, 20. So you've got 4 guys that on any given night can give you 20, 25, 30 points if needed. So they've just got too much weaponry on that team. And all due respect to Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, and that young Hawks team, but I saw pretty much everything I needed to see in Game 1 of that series with the Celtics. This Celtics-Sixers second round series is going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be very interesting. You're going to have offense and defense on both sides. Deep teams, that roll about 8 deep, 9 deep. So I'm very much looking forward to that. But of course, we've got to get through the first round first. But that offensive firepower of Philly, Brooklyn's just no match for it right now. I expect this series to be over quick. I had the Sixers in a sweep, and I had Boston in 5. I feel Atlanta will probably get one in Atlanta, maybe that Game 3. Usually teams that are kind of outmatched and outgunned usually get that first one at home to hope to right the ship, and then everything just kind of course corrects itself, and then the dominant team takes over from there. So I look for Boston and Philly to both end their respective series up pretty quick. But moving on to today's slate, we've got a busy schedule of games today. 3 games today. Celtics-Hawks, Game 2. Celtics lead 1-0. Of course, they had that 30-point lead on Atlanta at halftime, and then were kind of on cruise control. Sat back and just sat on Atlanta and sat on the clock, milked the clock. They were just too much. And, like I said, I look for Boston to end this. Probably another dominant performance today. Unless Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, one or both, really tease off on Boston, I look for the Celtics to take Game 2 and a commanding 2-0 lead. Knicks-Cavs. This one intrigued me because I had Cleveland in 6, and I thought they would take Game 1 at home. New York immediately swiped home court advantage behind Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, R.J. Barrett. They had a nice Game 1. I feel like it's still going to be a long series. If you were to ask me, I think I'd still stay with Cleveland, but of course, going to be less confident now that they dropped Game 1 at home. I would still take Cleveland in 7, but New York is impressing me, and I look for this to be the one long series out of the East. I think the other 3 are all going to be short series. This one has the capability to go 6 or 7. The guard play on both sides. The fast pace, dynamic ability of both teams. I look for this one to go easily 6, possibly 7. And then the Clippers-Suns nightcap. Clippers, of course, shocking Phoenix in Game 1, taking home court away from Phoenix. They have a 1-0 lead after that 115-110 win. If you're Phoenix, you've got to take this one in the desert. You've got to take this one. You can't go back to LA down 0-2. And I know it wouldn't be the end of the series, but it would certainly feel like the sky's falling if you were to lose the first 2 at home, going back to LA. And it's just an issue of the Clippers' depth versus Phoenix's lack of depth. When you look at the Clippers' depth, I mean, you look at Of course, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, and Paul George is probably out the remainder of this series, no matter how long it goes. But you look at Russell Westbrook, you look at the other, the complementary pieces on this team. Everyone's comfortable in their roles. Everyone knows what their role is, what their duty is, and they show up and play hard. And the Suns, they knew what they were getting into with the Durant trade. It was gonna sacrifice a chunk of their bench and a chunk of their depth, and we saw that in Game 1. The Clippers outscored Phoenix 34-10 off the bench. So we knew coming in that was going to be an issue for Phoenix, and whether they can correct that, I still think they can, and I still like them in this series. It would be a lot to ask of Kawhi. Westbrook shot very bad in the Game 1, but he had a few clutch plays that helped them over the hump, that helped them take out Phoenix and steal Game 1 in the desert. But you've got to get more production from Westbrook if you're the Clippers. And for Phoenix, you've got to get more production from your big four. CP3, a facilitator, but really struggled shooting-wise. So you're going to need that from CP3 in order to get back in this series and tie it up when it goes back to LA. So those are the 3 games going on tonight, and then the other 3 pick up Wednesday. Lakers, Grizzlies, Game 2 after LA took Game 1. We don't know the status of Ja Morant. We found out earlier today no fractures, no breaks in his hand. So I would imagine he would play in some capacity in Game 2. And whether the Lakers' depth can hold up, to me, that's the big question. The Lakers had the huge games from Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura. Whether or not they can sustain that, or whether anyone else can pick up the slack and take over, as complementary pieces to LeBron and AD. When LeBron and AD are your third and fourth highest scoring individuals on the team, you did pretty good. And you would like your chances, and that's exactly what happened in Game 1. And we'll see if anyone else can step up. And as far as the Grizzlies, they need Ja to play, and they need him to play at a high level. The Grizzlies do not have the offense without Ja Morant to keep up with LeBron, AD, and the Lakers, especially when you've got your role players, your complementary pieces showing up and showing out. So they need Ja to play and at a high level if they want to get back in the series. Heat Bucks. Heat took Game 1. We know Giannis left. Tyler Hero also sustained a broken hand for the Heat, so we don't know the status of either one of them going into that game. But Playoff Jimmy shows up for the Heat at the right time. So we'll see how big of trouble the Bucks could be, and they could be in trouble if Giannis doesn't play or if he's limited. They've had issues this season with Middleton hurt. So you've got to see, what the Bucks can do, that depth and that defense of the rest of the team, if they're willing, if they can step up, the Drew Holidays, the Brook Lopez's, the Grayson Allens. So we'll see how the Bucks respond in Game 2. And then the Nuggets, Timberwolves, the last game, the nightcap on Wednesday. Nuggets with a 1-0 series lead. They just smothered Minnesota. Everyone shot bad. Minnesota as a whole just struggled to shoot. And then Jamal Murray took over. He had himself a game, 24 points, I believe is what it was. Jokic didn't dominate scoring-wise, but, of course, gobbled up a lot of rebounds, dished out some dimes. So with Jokic struggling and Denver still winning the way they did, gives me very bleak hope for Minnesota. And I know it's only one game. It's a small sample size, and they've got that front court that's a force to be reckoned with. But it's definitely a good sign for Denver that you didn't have Jokic go for 30 or 40, when they struggled. He didn't shoot particularly well, and they still blew out Minnesota, only holding the Wolves to 80 points. So that's good news for the Nuggets. Now to switch gears to baseball. My Astros. Got the old school cap back there. The Colt 45s. The Astros struggling a bit out of the gate, which they've done the last few seasons. 8-9 through their first 17. They looked pretty good last night against the Blue Jays in a 9-2 effort. They roughed up Kevin Gausman. But the series before that, they dropped to the Rangers and got blown out on national TV, of course, because it has to happen. The Astros can play very well, and then they can get the ESPN Sunday night game and then just totally crap the bed against the Rangers. Now, the Rangers don't scare me, but they are off to a good start. So props to Texas for kicking our butts in that series. They lead the division by 2.5 games right now. But no Altuve, no Brantley, no McCullers. It's still the usual suspects. There's a lot of new faces coming in and out of the lineup. We've seen An enhanced role for Mauricio Dubon at second with Altuve out. We've seen David Hensley play some. Cesar Salazar behind the plate when Maldi needs a day off. You've seen Corey Julks come in. Few big hits. He's been impressing. Yanier Diaz, we've seen him sprinkled in. So there's a lot of new names cycling in and out as you've got guys hurt and then you've got guys resting. It's a long slog in the season, and I think the Astros only have a couple Thursdays coming up as their only days off. Besides that, it's just go, go, go. So Dusty tinkers with a lineup, which he usually does. He's notorious for tinkering with a lineup, moving people up and down the card. We've seen up and down the lineup card, in and out of the field. We've seen Benya move around a whole lot up and down the lineup. We've seen Dubon bat 7th or 8th, and then he bats leadoff the next game. So that's just Dusty's, way of just tinkering with a lineup, looking, see what's working, what's not working. It's a long season. So in that aspect, I'm not really concerned. The pitching is a bit of a concern right now, though, I would say. Christian Javier struggled a little bit. Luis Garcia struggled a lot. I think his ERA is up over 7 right now. Now, what could play a factor is maybe the delivery and the pitch clock could be getting to Garcia. He's one that took a little bit longer in his delivery, rocking the baby and, delivering a new pitch. So maybe the mechanics and the timing of all that is maybe throwing him off a little bit. I would give him a little more of a grace period to get acclimated to the pitch clock. But Hunter Brown has been pitching very well, though. Hunter Brown has certainly come on, had a nice last couple of outings. 7 innings pitched, 0 hits. Or 0 runs, I'm sorry. 0 hits would have been awesome. 0 runs in his last 2 outings, going at least 7 innings in both of those. So while some guys are struggling, some guys are getting their form. So Framber had a bit of a rough patch, got himself in a rough spot against the Rangers Sunday night. And then things kind of fell apart off of that. They hit a grand slam off, I think it was Hector Neris. So that's pitching is a bit of a concern for me. But I want to talk about some surprise individuals that are coming through right now, producing for the Astros, and I want to start with Mauricio Dubon. One of my friends that's a Giants fan, he works with the Giants, and told me about this kid that when we traded for him last year. Hey, everybody loves Mauricio Dubon. It's somebody that the fans love, and right away people gravitated toward him. I like this kid, full of energy. But he struggled with a bat last year. And I know a lot of people were, oh, no, Dubon's in the lineup. What are we going to do? Why is Dusty putting in Dubon? And some of it's for defensive purposes. A lot of it was for defensive purposes because he struggled with his bat. But he's really improved this year. He's batting .340. He leads the team in batting average. So he's getting on base. We've seen Dusty plug and play him pretty much up and down the lineup. And he's been playing second base primarily with Altuve still out. Probably a few more weeks with that hand injury. So we've seen a lot more Dubon this year. And I'm liking what I'm seeing from the kid. He's high energy, gets on base. So I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Mauricio Dubon. And I'm glad that he's showing out and really, cementing a spot on the team. Not just as we'll put you in when Framber's pitching or when so-and-so's pitching because of your defense or at second base because Framber generates ground balls, or your arm in the outfield, or we only pinch run you. So it's nice to see him showing out and showing off the bat. So Jose Abreu's another one. I was really impressed with Jose Abreu. I know he's only a few years younger than Yuli, so we didn't get super young at the position. But the 33-year-old from the White Sox, we got him from Chicago, started off the season hot. 10-game hit streak. Boom, right off the bat. 10 games. Has fallen off a little bit, but we're still getting good production from first base compared to last year with Yuli and when we had Trey Mancini. It was turning into a black hole, especially in the playoffs where we were not getting production at all from first base, unless you had Jordan playing or somebody else playing and you had someone else DHing. But as far as Yuli and Mancini, we were really struggling at first base. So it's nice to see some stability from Jose Abreu at first. So I would say he's another winner right now on top of Dubon. And then, of course, Hunter Brown. The job he's been doing. I could see him maybe moving up in the rotation. I know you got Framber, you've got Javier, Urquidy still there. Garcia's struggling a little bit, but Hunter Brown really finding his niche. as that fourth, fifth starter. And then we'll see, whenever McCullers comes back, what the situation is. If we go with a 6-man rotation or if someone gets bumped down. But patience, Astros fans. The key is patience. This is a long season. We've seen this several times in the last few years. I think the last three full seasons, not counting the COVID year. But the Astros start the first 16, 18, 20 games of the season below 500 because it takes time. It's a long slog of a season, 162 games. So I think they'll be fine. The Rangers and Athletics don't scare me. The Athletics are already falling behind. They're already 3-14 to start the season. The Rangers, until they show me that they can keep this up for an extended period of time, they don't scare me either. The Angels, with Trout and Ohtani, they're always a force to be reckoned with, but until the depth and the team surrounds them with run support and they can string together some wins, they don't scare me either. The only team that really scares me would be the Mariners because, we've seen what Julio Rodriguez can do with a bat, with the glove. Ty France, Luis Castillo's playing really well, pitching very well for the Mariners right now. I think his ERA is below 1 for the first 3 or 4 games he's pitched. And then we saw what George Kirby could do with the Mariners last year in a couple of those playoff games. So the Mariners definitely a force to be reckoned with. Definitely the team I would be watching if I'm the Astros in the AL West. But I think we'll be fine. I think the Astros will be fine. It's a long season. Pieces will be coming back. So and the young players are producing right now. So it's definitely a wait and see approach. But I'm not panicking at all. But we will be back later in the week. I do want to talk NFL draft, and I want to talk NBA draft. I want to talk Cowboys and Texans in the NFL. I want to talk Spurs and Rockets in the NBA. The Wemby sweepstakes. Who's going to come away with Wemby? And then also to see the quarterback situation of the NFL draft and what the Cowboys and Texans plan on doing. That's going to do it for this episode. My name is Louie. Feel free to subscribe. Smash that like, smash that subscribe. Follow us on all the socials. We're on TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Spotify. Trying to establish more of a presence and different stuff going on each of the channels. So if you subscribe to TikTok, you get some of the funny stuff. Twitter, you get a lot of daily updates, game updates during the games. We're covering NBA, NHL playoffs too. My son really enjoys hockey, so we're trying to watch as much of hockey as we can on top of basketball. So I will see you guys later in the week. It'll be a draft-heavy episode. My name is Louie. Thank you for tuning into the Garage Game Day Sports Podcast. We will see you guys next time.